Hey Michael, it's March 8th. So I'm going to make this a one-take video. I'm getting to it kind of late in the night, but I think just off the top of my brain plays, I may have some good, interesting things to say. So, uh, I was interested to hear about you talking about the abolition of certainty, which sounds, at least on the surface, very similar to Socratic um, work. Why is that, Nick? Well, because Socrates famously said that the only thing you could know is that you can't know that much, paraphrasing a little bit. And that his method, the Socratic method, which everybody knows is just asking questions, is in place specifically because unless it can be supported upon an inquiry, if somebody asks you about it or challenges it, you can defeat it. So the Socratic method and all of the works of Plato, which track Socrates' various conversations, do the same thing. And actually, this is why classical philosophy is considered, one of the reasons why it's considered the basis for modern academia. And that's because you remove all assumptions, all heroisms which may lead you astray, are to be exercised completely, and you start from ideas that are defensible. So this is really interesting because we still maintain that. And the scientific method is eventually, with Newton and Bacon, pulled from this. So, you know, it's interesting because we think of new ways to say essentially the same thing over time, and new ideas are introduced, or new evidence. So things which classical thinkers thought, we sometimes now know are wrong, like Aristotle's position on women and the family, and those things that are basically the basis for his book, Politics. So, we can dismiss some of those out of hand. But, for instance, did you know that it was Greek classical thinkers that thought of the idea of an atom? Of course, they weren't able to test that. They invented this idea as a thought experiment because they were trying to understand the different elements, the different parts of nature. They were actually trying to move beyond this simple idea that materials are some combination of each other and get to a point where they could say, no, there's one thing which everything is made up of and which you cannot divide any further. Even though we've progressed beyond this idea, they were actually the first to consider something like our modern conception of the atom. We take that term from them. So even though, of course, classical philosophers and most philosophers through time weren't scientists exactly, these things are pretty interlinked. So anyway, I'm bumping up against the end of my time, but maybe I would like to hear from you how interlinked they really are. How do the consequences of your work affect you day to day? Do you consider it? Or is that something that's mostly left for the seasoned academics in their tweed coats and armchairs? See you next time.